Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Wallabies versus the Springboks. And the Wallabies have done it. They've gone back-to-back with 2 victories over the world champions and the winners of the Lions series as well. So great result for Australia as they go back-to-back with those 2 results. It started out. Well, it didn't start out great for them, with Phillips giving away a silly penalty straight away from the exit, really. And we could see the Wallabies' intent was to keep the ball in play. They didn't want to be dealing with, well, 2 things. They didn't want to be dealing with the box line out, and they also wanted to keep the amount of ball in play as high as possible. They wanted to keep the game flowing, as opposed to is the Springboks modus operandi, which is to slow it down and take a break at every single opportunity, every scrum, and pretty much most of the lineouts as well. So that was a part of their tactics. Faf was silly early on, where he put his arm out and blocked into the arm of Nick White, who was trying to clear the ball, clearly offside, and a very silly move by Faf early on to pick up that yellow card. And that really set things in motion for the Wallabies on that one. Hi, those who are in the live chat, particularly in YouTube at the moment. LB says, this is what happens when we change our game plan. It shouldn't have damn media got to us. I'm not sure the game plan changed that much, to be honest. And I'll welcome Stephen Harris into the show. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, Paul. Listen, no, I don't think the game plan changed at all. You could see it that when they needed a two-score game, and they really didn't want to keep the ball in hand. Now, I thought the great tactics from the Australia, and we'll get to that later, was the fact that they actually tried to keep the ball in play with long kicks, which forced South Africa basically to attack from deep, or even, should I say, kick from deep.
Yep, no, exactly. And also, I mean, I've gone blank now. Australia lost Tom Banks relatively early on to a broken arm. By the sound of things, he's off to hospital. So let's wish him all the best in that recovery. Let's hope it isn't actually broken when they do the X-ray. But that brought on Reece Hodge, who, wasn't good under the high ball. But then again, I don't think pretty much anybody from the Wallabies was. But what he does have is a massive boot on him. And he's a player you don't want to be playing kickback with. And because of that, he was able to force, as you say, the Springboks to play from deeper than perhaps they wanted to, with his very big boot on that one. So perhaps a little bit of a blessing in disguise, that change there. Not that we wish Tom Banks all the best in his recovery. I hope he's not as injured as we said. I don't think many people would have had Ikitau down as the first try scorer in this game.
No,
but quick ball, and also knowing that Faf is a big part of that defensive setup, the way that he shoots out of the line, and is perhaps probably the best defensive scrum half or half back, depending on which term you want to use, in the world. So you can tell he was missed. And quick ball, Ikitau got through a couple of tackles and scored. And Ikitau's, he's far from the finished article by any stretch, but he's playing some nice rugby in that first half.
It's crazy, Paul. They've actually got some real depth in that position, and what a revelation Karevi has been as well. But he's a big, powerful man. We've seen what he's capable of when he's actually played for the Reds in the past, and we know that he's a genuine line breaker. Well, Ikitau's a line breaker, and it's scary to think that they haven't either got Paisami there as well, who's also missing. But boy, this kid Isaiah Peresi, who was injured at the top of the year, and also Jordan Pataia, man, they're just building depth in that midfield position. And what I enjoyed about their performance tonight was that they were able to acknowledge space and get guys into space one-on-one. And unfortunately, everybody says South Africa's got a good defensive record. Yeah, you've got a good defensive record when nobody plays any code against you, Paul. sure you're going to have a good defensive record if everybody kicks their ball away.
Yeah, look, one of the things that was a problem for that, we had that Ikitau, and then we had Ikitau getting the second try again. Tupu breaks, quick ball out to Ikitau, was the last man who scored out there, and suddenly it's 12-13. And at that point, the Springboks had missed 12 tackles in that period of play, with where we saw Karevi cutting back in amongst, and also, as I say, Tupu making some good yards. Big difference between Karevi and Delende. Delende, another hard-running centre, but he tends to seek contact rather than seeking space. As well.
And to be fair, Paul, he never really had any questions asked of him this evening, because Damien DeLonge just basically ran at him pretty much all night. And, when you're doing that, you're quite easy to defend without sort of having any sort of creativity happening in and around behind you.
Well, I think you'll find that a lot of the running was straight at Quade Cooper, and Quade Cooper made 14 tackles in this game, the second highest out of anybody in the game, and didn't miss any, which is wow. Not again, showing that Quade Cooper really has grown up and changed as a player, because he was a bit of a turnstile earlier in his career. 14 tackles, non-missed, fantastic performance by him. They're not dominant tackles, but they don't have to be. That's not what you have your fly half for. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and the other thing I liked the way that the Australian forwards actually went into contact. It was really, really quick ball, and actually getting numbers there to clear people out of the way. Where I think the Springboks, the guy, they usually use that second runner, and I know I called them bully boys, and it's probably a little bit harsh, but that in effect is what it is. And unfortunately, that guy who's there as a support player leaves his feet a lot of the time. So you basically, your ball's going to be immediately slow because it's trapped under somebody, Paul. Yep.
There is that, but we had that early flurry, those two tries, but then South Africa came back into it. It was 12-15 at halftime. They got the first try after halftime, and in that period they only missed one tackle, right? And this is what it came down to was when South Africa were missing tackles was when Australia really scored their points, because they missed 12 in that first piece, and they missed another 7 towards the end of the game, which is where we saw those Karevi's couple of tries as well. And it's when Australia could get quick ball, could run up the angles, that they could make South Africa miss tackles. Then they got they got joy, and they did that in two periods, at the beginning, and then in the middle of that second half as well. Between that, they actually struggled to. They didn't look like scoring that much, but at the end of the day, they only had 43% possession, 42% territory. But when what something we haven't seen from this Australian team before is that they were clinical when they had the opportunities.
Oh, absolutely, Paul. And we shouldn't forget, they're not the finished article. Far from it. If you think about where they've actually come from since this time last year, we've seen flashes of what they're capable. Even when they've played the All Blacks, there were games where going into halftime they were well and truly in the contest, but just that skill factor has left them in. But the good thing I like about them, they now know how to stay in a fight. We saw that in that first test against the All Blacks at Eden Park, where they didn't give the game away, scored 3 tries in the last 10 minutes, and again this evening defensively, when they did let the Springboks back into the game, I thought defensively they were really good.
Yeah, they were. Look, 96% tackle completion by the Wallabies. They made 117, only missed 5. It's fantastic. Yeah. So now we had Swinton's interesting tackle technique of basically a shoulder charge at shoulder height. Look, if you're being kind, that's called reckless. If you're not being kind, it's called stupid. It's gonna end up with the yellow and what could have been a red card for him in that one there as well. But aside from that, defensively, their tackling was fantastic.
Yeah, and with Swinton during that period too, very costly, Paul, because it actually gave the Springboks an opportunity to dictate the pace that they wanted to play at, which was just really, really slow the game, go back to their meat and drink, which is their line out and drive. And by way of that, and they also won during that time, they won the aerial battle, especially some really good work from their right winger, who won a couple of those high kick contests as well. And in that period of time, they were able to dominate enough field position. But I just thought at times maybe they should have just showed more and showed a bit of intent and kicked to the corner. Whilst they were picking up threes, along the way, 3-3-3-3, and getting them back into the game, it was also eating up a lot of time. And I thought the Australians in all, probably defence-wise, without the ill discipline, managed it reasonably well.
Yeah, but those threes that South Africa did take were all in the first half. They didn't score again after the 41st minute. So it got them back into the game, and they did try going to the corner a couple of times. They also disrupted the Wallabies line out on their own 5-metre line as well, on the Wallabies 5-metre line. But still, the Wallabies weren't missing tackles. There wasn't enough running at shoulders. There was too much running at players rather than trying to get the gap between two players from South Africa. One of the comments has been that we missed Cheslin Colby. Yeah, there's a player who does run goes round players rather than trying to go through them, which is what I say. Yeah, it was my criticism of Delende with that. We saw that they could distribute, and we saw that after half time when they got through that Faf Grubber for Am to score in the corner. Lovely try and some lovely play there.
Yep.
And that's what we find so frustrating about the Springbok side is we see them do it occasionally.
Oh, absolutely. And it was a beautifully well taken try. They moved it. They moved it with a little bit of width, which probably surprised the Wallabies a little bit. But you know what? When you actually move the ball a little bit wider, you start asking a few questions. I know on our own chat room, we've got a South African, John, who's on with us, and John's a very good analyst. And that's what I try to say. Any team that's prepared to play with a little bit of width against the Springboks, you give yourself a half a chance. Sure, you got to get past their forwards before you go there, Paul, but you give yourself half a chance.
Yep. Elby says, no, Colby wouldn't have been enough. No, he wouldn't have been enough, but it would have been an improvement. But too many players were poor. Delende and Am looked tired. Look, they have played a chunk of rugby this year. I actually got to agree with you, Albie. The box, whilst that series wasn't great in terms of aesthetically to look at it, attrition wise, it would have taken a heck of a lot out of those players. Where maybe although I'm saying that the Wallabies did play the All Blacks 3 times, and that would have taken a heck of a lot out of them as well. But yeah, I basically hear where he's coming from. And if you're with a game plan that's pretty limited, you're asking your forwards to do a lot of work, Paul. Yeah, we also think about it. If we think about who has played for the All Blacks, I think Havili's probably one of the only one that has played quite a lot. All the other players have been switched around. We've had different combinations. We've been saying, what is the number one combination? We don't know because we've seen so many. Whereas we know what the South African number one combination is. We haven't got much of a clue as to who the backup is because we've only seen 2 players there. And that's
absolutely, man. I'm not prepared to. Unlike a few of us that are on the forum, I'm not prepared to write the Springboks off against the All Blacks, because you know what? If they get a victory over the All Blacks next week, all will be forgotten. Seriously, that's the one team that Springboks. LB, I'm sure you'll agree with me here. If we're talking about a Springbok Day win in 7 days' time, all will basically be forgiven, because even though the South Africans are the world champions, it's the All Blacks that are still viewed as the benchmark. And you know what? And I kind of get that. I do get it.
Well, as you were saying, John has said in our live chat that he'd quite happily win both the All Blacks games. He doesn't care about winning the Rugby Championship. And that's I think that you're quite right. The next 2 games are the ones that kind of matter for a lot of the fans.
Yeah, I don't want that, because I don't want that, Paul, because I'll have to buy them 2 tickets to the next Springbok home in New Zealand. That's our bet.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we are there are a number of problems that they've got. I mean, also they're missing De Jager and Steinman in that engine room, and also obviously Peter Steph Toy as well. And so there's a lot of players, there's a lot of running and energy that other players are going to try and pick up because those guys are there, and they're obviously the replacements. I mean, Mostert, very good lock, but he's not a six. Sorry, 7 in South African terms, six in everyone else's terms, as far as line work goes.
And you know what, Paul? Paul? You saw the energy that Quagga Smith brought to that loose forward trio when he came on. Just a little bit more elusive, not a big guy, but got over the advantage line.
Yep. And also was a menace at ruck defensively as well. Was getting his hands in places where you don't want them, slowing the ball down a little bit as well. So yeah, it was. But can you play two open sides with the and that is the Springboks question, and it's because obviously the captain Stea Khaleesi is also an open side as well. So we'll have to wait and see how they try and square that hole there with that one. So it was those two periods, and I guess in some ways that's kind of very much an All Blacks kind of thing. Is you get a period of dominance for a set period, you take advantage of it, and then you kind of hold out during the other periods, and that's kind of what we saw here from the Wallabies. As I say, that try on 13 minutes, the next one on 20 minutes, so that period there, and then the tries on 61 minutes and 67 minutes, and then it's all, and those two blocks of time are the two bits where the Wallabies won this one. Anyone who tells you that this was a dominant performance of the Australia over the Springboks, no, the Springboks had plenty of territory in possession to do things with. They just weren't accurate enough to deliver in the same way. So they had the majority of the possession and territory, but they just couldn't deliver on that one. And you see that with just the meters run. 63 runs by Australia for 347. 87 runs by South Africa. So that's an extra 24 runs, but for 37 less meters, 310 meters. So more runs, but not going as far because, again, they're running at bodies a lot of the time whilst making that there on that one. Boa's in the live chat mentioning the tackle percentage. Yep, we've mentioned that one earlier as well. Yeah, the Boks were at 78% and the Aussies at 96%. Sorry, on that one. Yeah, LB says we weren't clinical at all. Very correct. The Springboks also losing a couple of scrums, a bit uncharacteristic on that side of things.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to say that's the area about this 2-test series or 2-test championship games against the Wallabies that have really, really, really surprised me. Yep, there's been moments of dominance from the Springboks in certain areas, but not as probably wider as I thought it would be.
I think they've generally had the upper hand at the scrum time, but the Wallabies have been able to pull one out when they need it. Like in the first Test match, at the end of the first half, at the end of regular time, both times they pulled out a scrum that went their way. Again tonight, there were times when, I don't know. Someone told me last week that they changed the way they were scrummaging and caught the Boks off guard. Whether they were doing that again today, I don't know. Today we seem to get less scrums completed. The referee was more inclined to give penalties, I think, for binding, slipping, and things like that, which I think we didn't get so much last week. I think he let the scrums, or he refereed the scrums better last week than this week. One of the things that this does too now is that Dave Rennie has got very much a positive win ratio when he's not playing the All Blacks. Because some of the criticism has, or some of the commentary has been about how he, yes, he's got a negative win ratio with the as he's been as international level because with only a 30% win record, but that includes 5 losses against New Zealand, whereas his record now is played 7-1-4, drawn 2, lost 1.
Those
when you take out the All Blacks. So when we're looking at this Wallabies team very much through an All Blacks lens, because they played more games against the All Blacks than everyone else put together.
I was going to say, Paul, though, if you wanted to improve your game, that's a team that you want to be playing on a regular basis. But then again, you do have to front up against different styles, and I think we saw that during the French series. Even though that wasn't the best French team available, you actually saw there were times they actually managed. I actually thought they probably struggled against that style, against the French style than they did the South African style.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised because we kind of often kind of think of the Wallabies pack getting overpowered, but no, they have fronted up very well in that piece. So now Rennie has played non-New Zealand sides as many times as he's played New Zealand sides. He's had 14 tests in charge of the Wallabies in this one. So that's the from that point of view. Let's have a look at some of the player stats around this. I've already mentioned on the defensive side of things that Quade Cooper was the second highest tackler for the Wallabies, which is just crazy.
Behind Cooper. Behind Hooper. Behind
yes.
Hooper and Cooper.
Hooper and Cooper basically did 34 tackles between them and didn't miss any. 20 for Hooper and 12 for Cooper. Rob Valentini, 12 tackles, non-missed as well.
Wow.
Is really kind of sort of growing into this role now. Remember, he's only 22. He's a long time ahead of him there in that number 8 jersey. Matt Phillips. I think he had a bit of a mixed game, but then look at his stats and see he had 13 tackles non-missed. Yep, he fronted up. And Karevi with 8. Then is next up with again non-missed. So all their top tacklers didn't miss any ones.
Wow.
With Cooper tackling so much, that means South Africa were targeting. Absolutely, they were sending players down his channel, big time. Would you rather run at Cooper or would you rather run at Karevi?
Yeah, exactly. And credit to the old man, if I can call him that. he made every one of those tackles. He's no spring chicken. He's no spring chicken.
No, absolutely. Compare that to South Africa. The highest tackler there was Moster, who made 8, but he missed 3. Khaleesi made 7, missed 1, and the majority of the players sort of missed tackles. Delendi, 1, and Etzbeth and Marks, who came on, all made 5 tackles, non-missed. But again, that's not up there with the with those 13 20s non-missed that we've seen.
It adds when you put it like that. When you put it like that, Paul, it really does add up, doesn't it?
Yep. The when you think about it, so the missed tackles for Corabetti made none, missed 1. So clearly they needed to get the ball out down his camp channel. Callaway also missed 1 but made 3. So there were a couple missed, but not very many by the Wallabies there in that one.
You know, Paul, I just also say I just wonder. You mentioned Mostard's not an open side flanker, and they play that 6-7.
Not a blind side flanker. No,
exactly. And to be honest, it takes a heck of a lot of mobility, and you could see that with the Mullen. You know, when these guys get turned around, it's really hard for them to get back. And I thought that was one area where I thought Australia really had dominance, was in that loose forward area. And boy, if there's a better player than Michael Hooper around in world rugby at the moment, I want to see him. The guy's amazing.
Yeah, and again, he's got an engine that keeps going the whole time as well, which is brilliant. Kicks from hand, 28 each, so exactly the same from both sides. which is
But I think it's where you're kicking, Paul. A lot of those kicks from Australia, especially when a lot came in the last 20 minutes, were long. They were just kicking long. They were saying to the Springboks, once we got ahead by 8 points, you know what? We're going to play most of the game down in your territory, and you bring it back to us. And I think I think that was just really good tactics at the time.
Yep, no, absolutely. To use most of the kicks from the Wallabies was infield and long compared to the as you say compared to the box kicking contestable kicks we saw mainly from the Springboks. But to be fair to them, Australia did not deal with those particularly well in that one.
Not at all. That's a part of their game that is a little bit of weakness. I know when Korobiti goes in to take high kicks, you just hold your breath. He's running in, whether he's going to get something, you probably always think not a lot. Tom Banks, we know, is good under the ball, but once he left the field, it really did expose them, and it's something moving forward that they'll have to think about, because that will be identified as a weakness of this Wallaby team moving forward.
Yep. Again, Mostert got through a chunk of carrying. So did Delendi, nine carries for 51 metres. But you compare that to a Karevi, 7 carries for 43. So Delendi actually carried better than I thought he did. But to me, it always seemed like he was running into players rather than running into space. The LB, Knox on right says Hooper, if he plays for New Zealand, starts at the moment. LB says that Hooper starts anywhere he plays for.
That we agree with LB. Not bad. Not bad for a guy that normally has a surfboard tucked under his arm at the Northern Beaches in Sydney, mate.
Yeah, right. You don't run around like that without doing some training. So around those sort of things. One of the problems for the Wallabies, and I think they probably perhaps got away with it a bit, was their discipline. Phillips, 4 penalties given up. Swinton 2 more, Hooper 2 more. So quite a few penalties there, but not to get a repeat yellow card. I think perhaps they perhaps were a little bit lucky in that side of thing with 18. I think it was 17 penalties given up compared to 10 by the Springboks. But as they say, if you can get away with, I've called rugby to be legalised cheating before, if you can get away with it and not get the yellow card, then that's pushing the line is part of it, definitely. I don't think that anyone can have any complaints about any of the cards that were given out today. To be honest, we saw the Australians kick off about the contact with Cooper's head when he was on the floor with someone's hand. We'll see if the citing commissioner saw anything there in that one. It just looked a bit of handbags, really. You shouldn't be putting your hand in someone's face, but it didn't look anything particularly over the top, to be honest with you.
Yeah, looked a little innocuous, to be honest, Paul. So I didn't think there was a lot in it. Like you say, that the Vermeulen Swinton collision, boy, it probably wouldn't have surprised us had it gone the other way, a red card. But that's the way Matthew Carling saw it.
Yep, and looks like Vincent Cott looks a bit nervous, and we'll see if the citing commissioner sees something he does. There wasn't anything too clear and obvious actually on the pitch at the time. And at the end there, we spent quite a long time, and I've forgotten the player's name who the number 21 who got South Africa, who went in with his shoulder. Now again, he very easily could have got a red card for that one, but look, less than 10 minutes to go. Just get him off the pitch with a yellow, and let the citing commissioner deal with it rather than spend too long reviewing it on the pitch. He's going to spend the rest of the game off the pitch anyway, so who really cares what colour the card is, to be honest with you, in my opinion, on that one. But put bluntly, Vice, you were just dumb. and it was the referee had already blown his whistle. It was already a penalty, and throwing your body in there after the whistle was gone. Yeah. So congratulations to the Wallabies. Back-to-back wins over the world champions. I didn't see that one coming. They have lost me some money on both weekends.
So, Paul, I don't think anybody saw that coming. I had a funny feeling in the back of my mind that they might somehow pinch one game, and I thought that one game was the game that they pretty much pinched from what do you say, Blim, use their get out of jail free card, and I thought that would be the game that they'd pinch, but I really ultimately thought the Springboks would actually hit back, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. So full credit to the Australians. You could arguably say maybe they're actually in pole position with the Springboks and All Blacks having to battle it out. If they take one game each and the Wallabies can get 2 wins over the Pumas, who knows?
Who knows? But you got to say that I was going to say I thought in the first game that the Boxers hadn't got off the aeroplane. When it comes to the second game, though, I think I'm going with LB's one that they're just knackered at the moment. And that they are running on fumes, and I guess the question comes as to when do they rotate and give their B team or give their fringe players a go, because I don't think you can roll out this team for another 2 weeks on the trot. In all honesty with you.
Yeah, I totally agree with. We actually spoke about this last week, Paul, and on a couple of shows during the week. This was going to be the tough one. They'd have to throw everything at this game. They've done that. What do the coaching staff do now? They might have to rest these guys, or they might have to roll these guys out again one more time, try and pick up a win over the All Blacks, and then basically for the last game run some of their B team out. But it's a big challenge in front of them. On saying that, we shouldn't speak too soon. The All Blacks have still got a game coming up very, 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 very shortly, so they've still yet to do the business, and they haven't got their full strength team on the paddock.
No, they haven't. So we've got the All Blacks versus the Pumas coming up next. We'll be live straight after that game with post-match reaction as well at around about midnight. I might be on my own for that one, as everyone else might have gone to bed by then. But we will see. Thank you very much for joining me, Stephen. And don't forget, everyone, we have missed the lockdown beers at 5 o'clock for the past 2 days because I've been out and about at NPC, Bunnings NPC and Bunnings Farah Palmer Cup games. Get my post-match interviews on our Facebook page, New Zealand Sport Radio. But the lockdown beers will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. On Sunday, folks. So do join me for that. And Simon Hughes says, congratulations, Australia, winning the Mandela Cup. Yes, congratulations to them. And also, massive congratulations to Hooper.
Yes.
For his record number of captaincies.
Very well said, Paul. Well said.